So the other interesting bit that we did while setting up the organization was to take a very radical call of not benchmarking the organization, or rather organizing the organizational efforts into verticals, but kind of looking at our specialization more in terms of the scenarios that we represent. And that came from, again, one of these business conversations when we were having, and we realized that the problem statements for organizations were more similar when they were in a similar phase of growth, or they were in a similar phase of expansion or challenges, rather than when they were a part of the same industry vertical. And we realized that perhaps then the solutioning has to be more homogeneous across a scenario, rather than being homogeneous across industry vertical. And it's been like more than a decade now that we have been oriented like this, and we feel that it's a very successful formula for us. And one of these very interesting scenarios that we stumbled upon back in the day was helping companies which were entering the Indian market for the very first time. And we felt that there was definitely a lot of need for such organizations to have an advisor working with them besides the support of a search partner. And I still remember the conversation which led me to this finding. We were working with a client which is a very large insurance company, it's about $80 billion organization in US, and they ventured into India somewhere around 2009, 2010. And in my conversations with their global HR head, he mentioned something like, that once we have set up our office, we realized that perhaps it was not the best choice of location for us, because the kind of talent that we're looking for is actually down south in Bangalore, while we set up our centers in Gurgaon. So maybe someone should have advised us about this before. And that kind of triggered a thought to us that perhaps for the organizations which are looking to enter the market for the first time, they need support in terms of understanding the talent topographs, understanding the compensation benchmarks, understanding how their competition is operating in the market, and base their business strategies or other their entry strategies on the back of these inputs. And we felt that there was an opportunity to explore this scenario more in details, and we started making some outreaches directly to organizations where we could anticipate had interest in sort of setting up in India. And one such exploration, I'll say, led us to an organization which was a NASDAQ listed pharma major, more than $3 billion in revenues. And I think we kind of reached out to them just at the right time. They were just about finalizing their plans to enter India by virtue of acquisition. And I think there was an instant connection in terms of their need to speak with someone like us who can advise on a lot of other parameters to them. We did end up doing some bit of an advisory on their acquisition target as well. But besides that, helping them in terms of doing location analysis, doing talent topographies, doing compensation benchmarkings, role benchmarkings, we did a whole lot of advisory work for them, and which led to the opportunity of actually launching that organization in India. To an extent that actually their first office was incubated inside Athena office. Their managing director, their CEO, their CFOs, they were all based out of the Athena office before they expanded to their own operations. Even post acquisition of the targets, in terms of helping them do the integration of these acquired organizations. And yeah, I think a very, very successful assignment based on a very exploratory direction of helping companies which are entering India for the first time. Let me invite my colleague Jigyasa again for her thoughts in terms of running a very similar mandate that she's been doing with another client of ours.
Thank you, Bhavishya. At Athena, as a company, we've been driven by establishing long-lasting relationship with our clients, and that is how we are unique in the market. That's how we are known by our clients. And over the years, we've assisted multiple global companies on the journey that they've traveled so far on various scenarios, on various problem statements. In the similar scenario, we worked with a client which is one of the largest FMCG food company globally. And while they were entering India, this is back in 2016 when they decided to make a very strategic move. They wanted to take an inorganic route to grow themselves in Indian market. And that's how they entered India by acquiring a company which is purely a promoter-driven company. And it's like completely Indian setup. So it was really technical for them to have that transitioning and have that integration with that organization. because Indian setup is like completely different how the global companies operate. So to understand the intricacies, the delicacies of Indian market, it was really becoming very tough for them to have somebody who understands their mindset and at the same time bridge a balance between the Indian promoter and the global stakeholders. So that's when they partnered with us. They actually had a discussion with us in terms of how to grow themselves, how to expand themselves operationally, people wise, and also in terms of what kind of compensation is going on in the market. So Athena actually advised them on multiple problem statements again. Um, and that's when we were successful in doing some very critical leadership hiring for them.
So yeah, I think I mean, this was a very interesting assignment because I think it sort of unfolded in many layers with us.
Yeah.
The initial stage when they had just strategic investment in the Indian entity, and hence there had to be someone who's kind of playing that role of managing both sides of the leadership and still trying to bring in the best talent internally, which was a different level of challenge that we were dealing with. And I think post then when they kind of went ahead and did the complete acquisition of the organization, and then they wanted to bring this transformation of turning around a setup which was more used to a promoter driven environment to a global best practices kind of an environment, and how to infuse that talent and how to build that brand for them in India, I think was a very interesting.
Very interesting. And setting up a brand which is completely unknown in Indian market, and having leaders who are hands-on at the same time, because in India the functionality is very different. They operate very differently, but they needed somebody who understands India so well, because it's a food industry, and food industry is their norms, their policies, they work very differently. They work very differently. So our structure in terms of manufacturing and policy making, and in terms of marketing is very different. So somebody who understands rural market or urban market and all of that. So it was a journey that we've traveled, and still we are working with them. It's been 7 years that we've been associated with their organization.
I think about 5 years,
right?
5-6 years,
Yeah, 6 years, yes. And we are still working with them. We are still, assisting them on a lot of critical problem statements.
Still some of the CXO roles that we are doing.
Yes, we are still working with them, and hope this journey continues.
Yeah, and I think it's been a very interesting journey for them. I think, back of the first acquisition, they've done 2 more acquisitions since then, and I think they are one of the market leaders in their segment in India already.
Yes.
So for the organization to go from an initial phase of being a startup in a lot of ways to be a market leader and traveling this journey with them has been a very, very interesting experience for us. So I think a very, very interesting case study that we had.
And the vision that they now have is to grow themselves 2x in terms of people and operationally and revenue. So this is how they see themselves growing in next 2 years.
And we hope we go 2x with them as
yes,
well.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jigyasa.
Thank you.